And just like that, a very pleasant good evening and welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. It is your favorite Monday show. Thank you for tuning in. We welcome those of you that made us a Monday tradition. If you're, or a weekly tradition, I should say, because we're not necessarily always on Monday. But welcome to the show. My name is Michael Dale. I'm joined by Rick Petty. And we're here to talk about hockey, primarily the Winnipeg Jets, but we do talk about the rest of the National Hockey League once a week, unless, well, as you can see in our show description, part two of the Stanley Cup playoff preview show / a bunch of highlights from the last time we had a show on Friday. So, good evening, Red Petty. How are you?
Very good, Michael. How about you?
Good. Are you getting excited for tonight?
I am looking forward to hockey again tonight. Yes, I am.
It's a
Yes, I
big
am.
night. It's not only our Jets in action, but it is the Montreal Canadiens taking on the Washington Capitals,
Yeah.
the Colorado Avalanche, and the apparently Gabriel Landeskog is going to play. He got activated from IR today. Um,
I heard it's
and
a
then
game time. It's a game two decision, but not shed or not in stone yet.
not in stone, but so that's an
Nice.
8:50, and then at 9 o'clock or shortly thereafter from Crypto.com Arena, it is the Oilers and the Kings going to start proceedings. There is one series that is yet to start, actually, yet to start after tonight, and that's going to be the Battle of Florida, which is the series that I am very, very eager to watch, along with just about all of them. Actually, but I think this is the one year where I don't get bored, quote unquote, with a first round matchup. I think there's intrigue across the board in all eight series this year, which uh, is great to see. Your thoughts on the first 2 days of playoff hockey?
It's been. I'm looking at. Yeah, it's been a good. Um, yeah, it's been more physical, more intense, which is good, and there's been yeah there's been what's interesting, and again I harp on this, but I can't help it, I just have to say it.
Yep, I know where you're going with this, and
Playoff hockey,
I feel the same way.
it's playoff hockey, and it's not called the same way as it is in the regular season, and everybody knows that. And so a game goes on for a period, like the first period with the Jets, and the first 10 minutes, and it's physical, and there's hitting. You could say a little bit more interference than normal, guys holding each other a little bit, stuff that probably might get called a hack, a slash, a little hook in the neutral zone, a little thing like that. Maybe during the regular season it's called, maybe not. It doesn't get called in the first 10 minutes. And all of a sudden the ref says, I want to call stuff. I don't think anybody knows that I'm on the ice. Everybody,
Right.
look at me. Don't look at the teams. Don't look at the Jets or the Blues. I'm the important person here. Look at me, the guy in the pinstripes that looks like a zebra. It's me. It's me. And it makes me crazy because I listen at the first, because I don't want to say nothing. I didn't say nothing to the folks that I was watching the game with. I just wanted to enjoy the game. And Kevin Bieksa came, I don't know if it was the first, I think it was the second intermission. And he
Yeah.
said, what is going on? He said the same thing as me, like that, all those penalties. And I agreed, every one of them, with the exception, I would say, and it's not just because of Jet, the one where I think it was Bolduc gave
Yeah. Yeah. He
Iafallo,
ran over IFL right in front of the bench.
yeah, right in front of the bench, behind the play. It's dirty. It's just because they were going out in front of the net, and now you give them that cheap stuff. That should be a penalty, no question. You could even give them potentially a 10-minute misconduct because it's way outside the board. Like
Yep.
it's completely not part of the game or what's going on, right? But all
Right.
the other stuff, a little hook here, a little slash there. They call a slash on St. Louis for a little thing. Oh my gosh, that happened probably 20 times in the first 10 minutes. And then they call it at the 12-minute mark of the first period. Come on. And it was in the neutral zone. There was no turnover, nothing from it. But Nope, we got to have a power play because Bettman said we got to have some goals. We got to have some power play goals. Come on, that's garbage. And then we'll get this stuff
Yeah,
final, like the last game between the Florida and Edmonton last year. It was literally
you
Roman.
you you weren't going to call a penalty unless you murdered somebody in that
It
team.
was Roman gladiators on the ice. I mean, the hooking and holding and
Yeah.
the behind the scene ended up being a 1-0 game because that's what it was. Because they didn't call nothing. They just took the whistles, jammed it in the bottom of their pocket, and that was it. So I'm not saying do that.
Or bit down really hard and did nothing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying do that. If it's a penalty,
Right.
it's a penalty, but not the chintzies. A guy's going on a breakaway and you hook him and you slash him. I get it. Call a penalty. That's fine. But not chintzy stuff in the neutral zone that doesn't lead to anything. No turnover, no nothing. I just hate it. Because a player, I would go nuts because what's going on? Like what am I supposed to do here? Like is it like the first 10 minutes of the game, or is it like it is now that you call that penalty,
Yep.
which you let go the first 12 minutes of the game? It makes me crazy. But other than that, let's talk first about the Jets game. But I mean,
Yep.
I could tell, I don't know about you. I mean, some of the commentators talked about it. I sense that vibe too, that the Jets, it's a huge burden on them. I mean, they're the President's Trophy winner. They're supposed to win. St. Louis isn't, they're playing with house money. They don't have to win. If they don't win, it's not a big deal. With the Jets, it's kind of expected. They have to win, especially when you compare it to the last few seasons where they got knocked out in the first round after they were expected to do more, especially last year against Colorado. So now they come in. I thought they played very apprehensive, and St. Louis played right into that. They were hitting them like crazy. And the Jets, they had no real feel, no game going. But as the game went on, especially into the second period, the tide kind of turned. I think they realized, okay, this isn't a big deal. We're in here. It's 3-2 going into the third. We're in this game. And then the third period, they just shut down St. Louis. St. Louis had only a couple of shots. I think the Jets blocked a ton of shots. They played really good. The defense controlled the neutral zone and offensive zone play. And they scored a couple of goals, one to tie, one as the winner, and then an empty netter. And there you go, 5-3 final. But I think here is a couple of things about tonight. I think number one, I think the Jets are going to be way better out of the gate than they were on Saturday.
Yep.
Whether they win or not, I don't know. But I think they're going to be better. You're going to see a more consistent team that, like they were, that ended the game. That'll be the team that's going to start this game. And number two, I'm really interested in seeing, I don't know what you think, but like, can St. Louis keep that up? I think in the first period, I remember seeing the stats. It showed St. Louis had 38 hits, to the Jets 17 or 19. And I just thought, can St. Louis keep that up? Like, that's a lot of hits. Like, it's exhausting. Yes, you could do it and hear a shift there, but all three guys doing it for every minute of every shift. Then you roll the next line and they're doing it. Like, eventually you pay a price for that. It can exhaust you. And I thought, I don't know if this is true, if this is how it happened, but I thought St. Louis just completely fell off the radar for the third period. I mean, now whether that's the Jets playing fantastic D, whether it's them blocking a whole bunch of shots, whatever, or that St. Louis was exhausted from having spent so much energy running after the Jets for the first period and a half, or into the second period with all those hits. That's part of it. So I'm interested in seeing, is St. Louis going to play that same way? Are they going to be a little bit smarter with their hitting? Maybe they're only going to hit small guys, like only hit Nemestikov, Connor, and Perfetti, and leave the hitting of the other guys, and maybe Josh Morrissey too. Maybe they'll be more selective because they have to keep all those little guys off their game. I don't know, but I think the Jets will be better tonight to start. How about you?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
I was talking to somebody who said, yeah, if you're blowing 40, 50 hits, are you chasing the puck a lot more? The chances are, if you need to be physical, you're chasing the game.
Or
I
you don't
didn't
have a
feel like
possession of the puck. Yeah.
right, and then you're going to go get it. I didn't feel like St. Louis was chasing the puck, all that much, especially in the first two periods. Do you think that was an intimidation factor? attempt?
I think a little bit. Because I think all things being equal, I think the Jets, I mean, they could play physical, but I think the Jets team is built around physicality, sure, but also speed. Like the Jets are about speed
Right.
and skill, right? St. Louis has some skill. There's no question. I mean, there's some skilled players there, but I think St. Louis is the underdog. So they say, what do we got to do? They say, we got to get the Jets off their game. Let's hit them. And so I think that's was their intention was that from the first period, like they just said, we're gonna hit the Jets every time that they have the puck. We're gonna hit them, and I think that was what they intended to do. They did it, and it worked out to their advantage because they got up 1-0, and then got up 3-2. After the Jets got up 2-1, then they got up 3-2 going into the third period. But
Here's
yeah,
here,
they were just
here's
not
something
able to maintain that for the whole game.
here's something interesting, Rich.
What's that?
I'm just seeing a stat on my TV here, but I wanted to mention just a couple of things, courtesy of TSN Research. Home teams are the percentage of winning the series when the home team goes up 2-0. So the team that has home ice advantage wins the series 89% of the time, and the Jets only had. Oh, sorry, St. Louis only had 32 seconds of ozone time the entire third period, two shots, nothing of the high danger variety.
So
In
you're
the
saying if a team which has home ice advantage wins the first two
two
games at home,
games, they have an 89% chance historically to win the series.
okay.
And then the ozone time was 34 seconds? Yeah, 34 seconds, I think they said. Um, but yeah, no, I just felt like, but I don't know if you felt like this. Um, I felt like the Jets really got to their game when it was 3-2 St. Louis. I felt like the Jets slowly started to work their way into the game. And by the time the third period came, that's what you got. And
Yeah.
good, bad, maybe otherwise, but I just can't help but feel that that was St. Louis's best punch in the series to date, and the Jets were able to withstand that. And now I'm not going to say the Jets are going to go and sweep, but sometimes you have to take a punch to, I don't know, test your metal or whatever you want to say. But I think sometimes you need to withstand the other team's best than to have success for yourself. That came out really, really bad. But you know
No,
what I
but I know
mean.
what you're saying. I know
You
what you're saying.
understand what I'm trying to say, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's St. Louis putting their best foot forward so far, and it's not good enough, right? And I just can't help but feel like that might have been Hellebuck's worst game of the series. And if you can't win with Hellebuck on the ropes like that in the first game, it makes you wonder about future success. Is what I just trying to
True.
get at.
True. And two of the three goals St. Louis scored were power play goals, and they were perfect shots. Robert Thomas's shot, perfect top corner, and then that shot by Jordan Kyrou. He tries to shoot that puck like that 30 times. He maybe makes that top corner exactly like that and scores a goal maybe one or two times out of 30. Like that's it.
Right,
That's just not going to happen the majority of the time. They were two perfect shots, and all the credit to St. Louis, but it's not like they dominated the Jets 5-on-5 play. And then the one
right.
goal that they scored 5-on-5 was just really fluky. It hit Shen's skate and then bounced right out to that guy, and then he just fired it to whoever that was, that the Russian player fired it in the top corner.
Rob has a question here, which we should get to, because that's kind of my next thing. Would you swap out one of Miller or Fleury on the third pairing with Shen? I think he's saying take out Logan Stanley. Uh, Stanley, I believe, will be the cause of more goals against than he prevents. I'm not there yet. I'm sorry. I'm not there yet. You win the game. I think you go with the winning lineup. Um, I I understand the premise, but I think Logan Stanley's presence can be a bit of a deterrent. Yes, I understand that you don't have the cannon from a point, which is I think something that Rob is alluding to is you have a bit more of a harder shot in Colin Miller. Listen, but I'm not there yet. Logan Stanley to me has not done anything yet to come out of the lineup. Would I entertain something in game three if tonight doesn't go well? Perhaps. But I don't know. I'm just of the mindset that you don't touch a winning lineup uh, in the playoffs unless you absolutely need to.
Okay. And I agree with you on that. And the other thing I would say is to Rob's point, I mean, I I hope Rob was watching the same game I was because I
Yeah,
watched that game and I didn't see Logan Stanley play poorly. His he was physical. He moved the puck well. He played well with Shen. They were on the ice for one goal, that one, but it wasn't Stanley's fault. Stanley was
right,
watching his guy. It was Shen
right,
that knocked the puck down with his skate and passed it right out to
right,
the other guy instead of getting it out of the zone or getting it to the side and getting it away from the front of the net. It was on Shen.
right.
It was Stanley. And then the other two goals were power play goals where I don't think Stanley was even on the ice.
Yeah, no, I'm just watching one of them here. It was the Morrissey DeMello pairing on the
Yeah,
one,
on the
on the
power play,
Kyrou
exactly.
Cannon, and I think it was Sandberg pair on the other one.
Exactly. So he's -1. Okay. But how many times did he give up the puck or cost it? He didn't. But you
Right,
know what it is?
right,
He's physical. He's big. So he makes it hard for other big forwards of St. Louis to get to the front of the net, to cause
right.
distractions, to cause havoc in front of the net. That's
And
why
I,
he's there.
yep, yep, 100%. And I agree with that. You know, along with Shen, he's a deterrent to the front of the net, which is something the Jets did not
Correct.
do a very good job of against Colorado.
Yep, and they
Um,
kill the penalty. Like on the regular
yep,
shifts, they're the third pairing. They're going to be out there against the third or fourth line, especially when the Jets are at home and they get last call. They're going to put Morrissey and DeMello out, or they'll put out Pionk and Sandberg. But I like Logan. I know a lot of people don't. I'm gonna, you know what? Some
yep,
guys it takes longer. He's gonna get it. He's playing with Shen. He was great when he was a rookie in those first couple of years.
yep,
He had a tough stretch. He's going to gain experience by playing. They believe they don't. They've invested too much in Logan Stanley. That's why he's playing. He's playing
right,
because they're sure they could play Fleury. Sure they could play Miller, but he's a first round draft pick. They have to play. They have to invest. They have to give him the chance to be great or at least be good, if not great, in moments that call for him to be great. And he's never going to do it. For some guys,
right.
they need to live it in order to be it, if that makes sense.
Well,
And I
and
agree with
here's
you. And he's
here's
got
the
a good shot. The other thing,
yeah,
he's got a left-handed shot, and he's got a good cannon. He can shoot the puck,
yeah.
Stanley.
Well,
He's just
well,
big. He needs lots of space,
here's
but he's got a good
here's
shot.
the other argument. If Morrissey and DeMello give up a couple of goals, are they subject to the press box too? Like, why is Logan Stanley singled out in a lot of these arguments? I don't get it. I don't get it,
He
and
has, yeah, because
I don't
once in a
have
while he coughs up the puck. Okay, but everybody's looking. You know what it is? It's that guy that you're just waiting to make a mistake, and you're looking.
yeah.
Oh, there's Stanley coughed the puck. And how many times does
Ha
I
ha
could?
ha!
I was at a
Got you!
game.
Ha ha ha!
Yeah, I was at a game. I watched Shifley give up the
Yeah,
puck 3 times in the neutral
yeah,
zone that caused a 2-on-1 going the other way. Now he didn't score, but
yeah,
Shifley's ever go, oh, Shifley bench him, put him in the press box and put in whoever, somebody else off the no. And it's like Connor has looked bad sometimes. Perfetti has coughed up the
yeah,
puck. The Mestikov, Niederreiter in the last game of the
yeah,
season against Anaheim, he gave up a 2-on-1 going the other way. You're going to bench Niederreiter? So I'm just saying,
yeah.
give the guy a chance. Okay. If he's caught, if the Jets lose 6-0 tonight and he
And
and
he's a
Shen are on the ice
-4.
for all
Then
6 goals and it's all
yeah,
his fault, fine. Put him in the press box. But it's not. He's going to prove to people that he's worth having. And the farther the Jets go into the playoffs, it's not going to be a coincidence because he's in the lineup, because him and Shen bring size that
yep.
DeMello, Morrissey, and Pionk don't have. Pionk has
Do
an
not.
edge.
Yeah,
Sandberg has some size, but they don't have the grit and sandpaper the way that
yeah.
Shen and Stanley do. And you need that.
Do you, Do you have time for the argument that you should move Shen and Stanley off of the same D pair?
No, I don't
No,
want him on the second
let's. I
or the
don't
second.
either because then you're touching the DeMello, Morrissey, Piont, Sandberg pairings, which I don't really want to touch right now.
Well, and you're pushing one of those guys down to the bottom four.
But that, yeah, it's to me.
DeMello, listen, DeMello's not big, but you know what? He plays well with Morrissey. He's smart.
Yep,
He,
yep.
he when Morrissey goes,
uh,
he
He
plays
he
back to
he.
defensive and he can skate. Shen is a trouble. He can't move his feet as quickly. He's just not there. Morrissey plays well with DeMello, and Pionk plays really good with Sandberg. And when Pionk was injured and they had Shen with Sandberg, it was okay. But you could see there were times where Shen, he just does not move the puck and read the ice the way that Pionk does. And Sandberg plays really well off of Pionk, and he did not play as well off of Shen, or Shen did not play as well off of Sandberg.
So Rob's follow-up comment is Stanley does not use or exert his physical presence to the extent that he should be against his opponent. If an opposing forward outmuscles him for position in front of the net.
Well, let's watch the game tonight. Let's see
Yeah.
how many
Well,
times Stanley gets outpositioned and gets pushed out of the way. And as a result of that, St. Louis scores a goal. Let's see.
under one is my guess.
I think it's
But,
under one, too. I think
but
the Jets are
anyway,
going to play better. I don't know if the Jets are going to win, but the Jets are going to be better. I don't think it's going to be this 5-3 thing. I think it's going to be a little bit tighter. I think it could be a 2-1 game, 3-2 game, maybe 4-2 with an empty net or 3-1 with an empty net. I just have this feeling it's going to be St. Louis is going to be playing tighter. The Jets are going to play tighter. The Jets are not going to be as nervous. They're going to
yeah.
withstand whatever the St. Louis Blues want to do in terms of running them or hitting them. And yeah, I just think it'll
Yeah,
be a little bit.
and it's interesting. I wouldn't be shocked if we see overtime tonight.
That's a
I
possibility.
would not surprise me. Very quickly, Rich, we'll come back to the Jets game at the end of the show because we
Okay.
are an hour away from puck drop now. You can watch the game. It is exclusively on CBC tonight by virtue of the Habs and the Washington Capitals playing. Let's quickly talk about the Battle of Ontario quickly. I know it's only been one game. I want to talk about the rest of the series as well, but haven't even started yet. And get some playoff pitch for the rest of the way. What have you thought of the Battle of Ontario? I will preface it by saying this. I felt bad for Ottawa. I thought the officials didn't help them out yesterday. I thought that was brutal, a couple of the calls. It was interesting for me because, yes, I cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is a public fact by now. They're my second favorite team behind the Winnipeg Jets. I'll admit it was nice to see Toronto have more experience in a playoff series than their opponent for once. It's always seemed like it's been the shoe on the other foot.
Yeah.
That being said, I didn't like any of the calls against Ottawa. Very many of them anyway. I thought there was a little bit of a too much of an emphasis on I mean basically the same thing we saw in the Jets game. I just thought they were a little bit zealous on the whistle. I think the penalties were like 6-2 in favor of Ottawa, which I didn't really see to be fair. But I think Ottawa needs to keep this series 5-on-5, and they need better goaltending from Linus Olmark, this might be over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think if Ottawa can keep it 5-on-5, much like the Jets, I thought for an extent, maybe the whole game, Ottawa just looked like they hadn't been there. The Leafs look like the team whose core has been in the playoffs now 8 years in a row. Ottawa, I think, needed one game to get the nerves out of the system. We'll see what they do. I liked what they did 5-on-5, Rich. It was the penalties that did them in. And hey, in combination with the Jets, the reason the Leafs and the Jets are up 1-0 in their series, their big money guys came to play on both sides. And that was, I think, really good. Anthony Stolarz did what he needed to do. But Linus Olmark leaves a lot to be desired. Granted, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Um, entirely that he's not the one taking the penalties resulting in the power play goals. That being said, I think you do need a couple of saves just to give your team a fighting chance. Um, but again, that's neither here nor there, nor am I about to critique the goaltender because I don't know the first thing about goaltending. But it just seemed like Linus Olmark was too deep in his net um, and really didn't help himself on a lot of those goals. Memo to the officials: stay out of that series too. I thought they called too many penalties. The Leafs did a great job, I thought, stepping away from any um, extracurriculars that Ottawa wanted them to get involved in until very late in the game. And one thing that really excites me as somebody that's going to be watching the Toronto Maple Leafs for the rest of the playoffs, I realize it's one game, but this is not the Toronto Maple Leafs of last year, the year before, or
No,
even the year before that. I think it's
I agree.
abundantly clear last night.
Yep. No, Toronto looked good. Toronto looked good. Did you find maybe that Ottawa was just a little bit just like the moment overwhelmed them, or they weren't ready for the moment, maybe? Or I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it. Players are players,
To
they know
me,
how to play, but
their inexperience showed, and I think they came up with the wrong kind of game plan. I thought they wanted to see if they could try to push the Toronto Maple Leafs around in their own rank, and the Leafs wanted no part of it, and that's when all those extra penalties came in the Leafs power play. I think they said they scored the same amount of power play goals in one game yesterday than they did in the last first round series against the Boston Bruins last year. So I found that to be pretty interesting. But again, much like the Jets game with St. Louis, much like Colorado, much like Carolina's up 1-0 against New Jersey, I don't read much of anything into game one. I don't believe in momentum going from game to game in the playoffs.
yeah, I don't
Um,
either.
I think it's an abstract of a, okay, this has happened, but I really don't feel like it's an indicator for what's to come.
I agree, and I think like when Ottawa plays Toronto in game two, I think it's going to be a different. I think they learned a lot from that first game. Like obviously the Leafs have a very good power play, right? So you take
Right?
penalties and you take penalties that are kind of silly, and they can really make you play. I think they scored 4 power play goals. I think 3 or 4. Like it was in the 6-2. I think at least half of the goals, 3, maybe 4. Like their power play was very good. But the other thing is like just Ottawa, to your point, I don't know, it's their game plan, whatever. Like I think with the Leafs, you have to play them, and Ottawa has some scoring ability. It's not that they don't, but they've got to play their system. They have to play defense first. They have to, if they play a gritty game and they force guys like Marner and Matthews and Nylander to go to the hard areas, go to the net, go to the corners, and they get Rock'em and Sock'em in there, and they don't go out of their way to just run everybody, but they just play a physical defensive game. They can turn the pucks over on the Leaf defensemen. They can make things happen, but they got to skate with the Leafs. They got to play smart. They have to play defensive. And I just thought there were too many breakdowns, like that goal by Ekman Larson there, just coming down right down Main Street. Like that's one of the forwards guys like that. And where are the forwards? Like they're all, I don't know if they were changing or they're just skating back at half speed. Like you got to watch that guy. He goes up the middle, pinching right up the middle for a drop pass. I mean, you got to watch that guy because otherwise he's got a straight in shot on goal right in between the hash marks. So things like that, right? Like I'm just saying, again, it's one game. I agree with you. It could change. It's like St. Louis. If St. Louis wins tonight, if Ottawa wins their game two, it's a best of 5. It changes everything, right? The Jets
It's a
still are,
best of five going to the other team's building in both
yeah,
cases.
but whatever. But I just think like it's the same thing for the Stars. I mean, the Stars just look, I feel so bad for them. They're missing, you could argue, their number one forward in Jason Robertson and their number one defenseman in Hiskinen. And they still hung with Colorado almost right to the end, except for, they got a late goal to make it 3-1 in the third period, and then they scored a few empty netters. But I feel sorry for Dallas. I feel bad for them. Um, yeah. Who else are we seeing? I feel a little bit bad for Ottawa, and I just think they're going to turn around. I think the Stars are going to play better. Ottawa's going to play better in their second game. New Jersey's going to play better for sure against Carolina. Be interesting to see what the Habs bring. We should maybe chat
Yeah,
about those
yeah.
series that we
Let's
haven't talked
let's
about yet.
start with the other series here quickly. I
Sure.
just want to make one mention. Miro Hastinen on the ice for Dallas this morning in the morning skate. Status is TBD. Same with Gabriel Landeskog, who we've already talked about. So tonight, and you can see the pregame show on your TV if you want to watch it right now. The Montreal Canadiens will open their quest for a Stanley Cup against the East number one team, the Washington Capitals. How do you see this series? The Habs getting in on game number 82 by winning that game, thankfully, because Columbus would have, if Columbus would have won that game, they would be in. And as Rob is commenting, I am also looking at, looks like it is Logan
Yeah.
Thompson in the tunnel, about to lead Washington on the ice for warm up.
It has to be Logan Thompson. He's their guy. I mean, all
Yeah,
year he's been
no,
their
the only reason is because he missed the last couple of games with
yeah.
injury. But no, I don't think there's any question who the number one is in Washington. How do you see this series?
It's a very interesting setup. It's the number one seed against the number 8 seed, right?
Yep.
Washington had that spot pretty well locked up since the Four Nations. They really had their spot in the playoffs, and they ended up in first place in their conference. And the Habs just got in on the last game of the season and got in. So listen, it's so interesting to read the Canadian websites. Davidoff. Oh, Habs are counting on Davidoff to be the difference maker. That guy is a rookie. He has never
Played 2 games.
He's played 2 games and he's never played in the playoffs. And he's a skinny little Russian. Yes, he's skilled.
Yeah.
We all talked about that about Ehlers, and look how much trouble Ehlers has wheeling and dealing when he's got guys. And Washington, they are built for the playoffs. They have no superstars in that team. Nobody in the top 25 as voted by TSN except for Ovechkin, and he's 40 years old. But none of their forwards, they got tons of depth. They got guys that can score. They're physical. They're a big team. They play a system. They're built for the playoffs. They are going to grind teams down. They're going to grind people down. They're going to get their power plays, and they're going to finish on the power play. And you better have something to match them on the power play or on 5-on-5, because it's going to be hard. And I just do not see the Habs with that lineup that they have, which is kind of small. They got a lot of little guys: Suzuki, Caulfield, Davidoff. Armia doesn't like hitting.
Only guy you might be able to get into it.
Is a big guy. He doesn't like that kind of game. So I'm just saying they're not made for the playoffs. And so I would be shocked that Montreal does anything to scare Washington. Like if they win a game, even back in Montreal, I'd be shocked if they win some game like 6-1 or 5-1. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Washington is going to win this series easily because they score enough goals, they play really good D, and they're not going to give the Habs anything. They're just not. The Habs, they're going to have to go to hard areas, and Caulfield and Suzuki and Davidoff, I predict he's going to be somewhat to non-factor, in my opinion. I just don't see how a rookie who's played 2 regular season games and then goes into the playoffs. He's never played a playoff game. Yeah. Good luck with that. When you go onto the ice with Washington, he goes up against Tom Wilson. I'm sure they'll put Tom Wilson and Ryan Strome on that line with him and Line and Suzuki or whoever he's playing, or Suzuki, Caulfield, and him. Good luck with that. That's
and the other thing that's interesting is Patrick Laine does not have a 5-on-5 goal. I can't even remember. It's been like 2 months since he's had a 5-on-5 goal for Patrick Laine. So it's interesting. You're still not going to like my pick, but do you want to go first with your pick in this series?
I am picking Washington. And
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, out of all the series, I think this will be the most easily won series by the winning team, if that's the way to say, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Washington will
Yep.
have the least trouble with their opponent
It's an
versus
extra
everything
eight
else.
days, and that's all really it is.
And I believe Montreal may be like a blind squirrel with no sense of smell that finds an acorn once in the series and might win one game, but Washington in five. I don't think it's even going to be a series, in my opinion. Robs thinks it's going to be Montreal at 7. I want money on that. Somerville, put your money where your mouth is. Let's go. $5 right now, because he's going to laugh. I
Well,
don't
I,
believe that
I, I
happens.
can do one
Yeah.
better. I can do one better because I'm pitching the Canadians in 7.
You are too?
Yep, I am too. And I said that right when this series was first announced. I just think that Washington is going to have too much pressure on them. I don't like the way they closed the season out with I get it with the Ovechkin chase and all that stuff. Montreal comes in with nothing to lose. They're gonna split in Washington one of these first two games, come home to the Bell Center, and they're absolutely gonna ride that wave. And they're gonna win one more in Washington in the game 7. I'm going the Canadians in 7.
Okay.
There's got to be an upset somewhere along the line, Rich. It's been way too easy with the pitch so far.
Actually, have I picked? I'm not sure that I've picked. Have I picked an upset? I don't know if the first round. I should look at this. Toronto.
But anyway,
Yeah.
you don't need to tell me now.
Colorado, I think, was my only pick for an upset where the lower seed is going to win. I think that's my only one is Colorado. I think everyone else I picked the
Yeah.
higher seed. Yep.
Well, yeah, me too. I have 2 right now, and those are my only 2.
Okay. Okay. Montreal and 7. Well, now we're venturing not on the same path. The other 5 series that we talked about on Friday night were we were all in the same. It was
Basically the
just,
same path.
well, it was the same teams. It was just how many games they're going to win in.
No, that's fair. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Let's talk about the other series that starts tonight.
Okay.
LA and Edmonton,
Yes.
4 years in a row. This is why I hate the format, because we're subject to this 4 years in a row. Um, the question is, and I have a lot of concerns about Edmonton and their health. Um, we don't seem to know who's going to be in the lineup. Seems like McDavid and Draisaitl are back to normal. It just seems like um, the Oilers don't know who's in now. The only thing is, I'm wondering is, are these injuries maybe not as bad as what they're leading us to believe, and they just want to rest and heal up and have their best shot at going back and winning that one game that they didn't win last year? But this to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, just seems more daunting this year on the part of the Edmonton Oilers than it does in years past. Number one, the home record of the LA Kings is out of this world crazy. Their team defense is good. Actually, is great, maybe even exceptional to impeccable on home ice. And I think they're a better team than they are in the past 3 incarnations of this um, series. And there's just so much uncertainty with the health of the Edmonton Oilers. And I think most importantly, to be honest with, their goaltending. And I do not believe that Edmonton's defense is going to be able to um, keep them in games. And I like the way the LA Kings are able to defend. Um, I I question the Oilers' ability to defend relative to LA. The equalizer and the only concern I have and why I think this series will be dried out is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Edmonton's power play relative to LA's power play.
Yeah.
Although, um, yeah, pardon me. No, it's from yesterday.
Is there?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's no games ongoing right now. But no, so that's kind of but that's kind of what I see. And I think there's a lot more unknown with the Oilers than there are with the LA team. My question is just LA's power play. Are they going to be able to keep up with the Oilers? And what can McDavid and Draisaitl drag out of the Oilers?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be that complicated for me. Edmonton can win the series. I mean, they've won the last 3 years,
Yep.
right? LA's run up against them. They've won the last 3 years, but this year I think it's just completely different. Number one, because LA is more balanced. Quentin Byfield is a much better player. He brings a lot more than he had in the past when he was much younger. I think LA is uh, more spread out in terms of their offense. They play a stifling style of the defensive play without a superstar goalie. They just have very good goaltending. They don't have a superstar. They have Riddick, and then who's the other guy? Riddick, and I'm not sure who the other netminder is. It's Riddick and somebody else. But anyway, they play great defense, and Edmonton is
Kemper, Dusty
vulnerable.
Kemper.
Kemper, and Riddick. But
Yeah.
they've got I think Edmonton is vulnerable. I agree with you. I think there's injuries there with guys, and we don't know how that all is. That is it Wallman on defense?
Jake Woman, yeah.
Yeah, we're not
And
sure
then
about
at
it.
home.
Ekholm being out is a huge factor.
Yep.
Huge. They don't have CC anymore playing with Nurse like they did last year. They
They
lost
don't have
Broberg.
Broberg or even Holloway.
They lost Broberg and Holloway. They lost CC through free agency. So I don't know who's playing with Nurse now, whoever it is. I'm just saying they're not the same team. They're not as deep. Yes, they added some
I don't think
players.
they're close to the same team. Never mind
Yeah,
that same team.
they added Arvidsson. They added Skinner. Okay, I get it. But Ekholm not being there to play with the Bouchard, I think is a huge factor. Huge. And the other guys, whether it's Draisaitl, McDavid, and Kane is not. He's going to come back. He hasn't played in like a year, and he's going to make.
Yep.
Oh, Kane's going to be a difference maker. Kane's not.
And then you're going to throw him into
He's
a
going to
playoff
need at
game when he
least.
hasn't even played a preseason game.
Yeah, exactly. If he was in the regular season, they play him on the fourth line, and they'd probably have like a week's worth of games before he could even get up to speed. Now you're going to give him the playoffs. Yes, he can hit people, but maybe he's going to be apprehensive. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't hit anybody. Maybe he doesn't want to hit anybody because he's not sure. It's going to take a while. So I don't buy into this whole Edmonton. This is the year LA wins against Edmonton. And the other fact with Edmonton is Stuart Skinner is not the Stuart Skinner from the playoffs last year. He has not played well. All year he's been up and down, and this last stretch going to the playoffs, he has not been great either. I see LA winning this series, not easily, but I see them winning this series. How about you?
I will make my prediction. I'm going to take the LA teams in 7. I question the team's ability to win on the road. Do not question their ability to win at home. I think McDavid and Draisaitl will win the Edmonton Oilers a couple of games. But at the end of the day, to use an old line, you are what your record says you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen anything in the past that tells me the Oilers will have success in this series relative to everything that we know about the LA Kings. Kings in 7, and they're going on a run.
Yeah, I agree. I think LA could really, because they to me could give a lot of problem to Vegas and to Jets or whoever gets through. I think they could be a real X factor. So
the only thing is, yeah, the only thing that I'm sort of wondering is, can they turn things around on the road, and can they score on the power play? That to me, like if LA didn't turn this into a parade to the penalty box, then it won't be good for them. But we'll see. I think LA has added. I think LA has added Andre Kuzmenko, which is going to help their power play.
I agree too. I like LA, but not in 7. I like them in 6.
Okay. Okay. That'll be very good. One more series we talked about, the Battle of Florida. This is perhaps the most intriguing series in the East. No disrespect to the Battle of Ontario. Florida, I think, will be much the same as the Oilers. We haven't seen them play together because of varying amounts of injuries. Um, what do you think that what do you think is going to happen in this series? Tampa also one of the best records in the NHL since the Four Nations break.
Yeah, exactly. Tampa, nobody's talking about Tampa. Everybody's talking about Florida, Florida. Can Florida get healthy? Can Florida make another run? Florida this, Florida that. Florida's hungry to repeat. Florida, Florida, Florida. And you know what? Tampa Bay loves it. Kucherov quietly, he's going to be right up there with MVP voting. I don't think he's going to beat Hellebuck. I still think Hellebuck's going to win the Hart.
He had the most points in the NHL this year,
Correct.
Kucherov.
I think Kucherov could be a close second to Hellebuck. And if Hellebuck does not win, it will be Kucherov that wins. Point and Hagel have had great years. They haven't missed a beat saying goodbye to their captain, Mr. Stamkos, as he went off to Nashville in free agency. And Tampa Bay has slowly just, the Vasilevsky's played well down the stretch. They've just chugged away. And what do? They end up in where did they end up? Yeah, they ended up in the second place, just behind the Leafs.
Yep. And they were in it until the last week of the season as far as the division goes.
Yep. So I agree with you. I think Tampa Bay is one of those teams nobody's really talking about, or at least not out loud, maybe just very quietly. But, you see on social media all the talk about, well, Winnipeg in here, but Colorado, Dallas, Las Vegas. I hear lots of Toronto out east and Washington and blah, 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 blah. And even Florida. And nobody's talking about Tampa Bay. And I think Tampa Bay is going to win this series against Florida. I think Florida, Stanley Cup champion, attempting to repeat, I think they get knocked out in the first round. I see Tampa Bay winning in 6 games. How about you?
I am just going to go. I want to make sure that I do not deter from my original bracket since I already did once. That's okay. I said in my bracket that the Kings would beat the Oilers in 6. I amend that to 7. But on my NHL.com bracket, I have Kings in 6 over the Oilers. No, I'm gonna keep it what I said was gonna happen. Tampa Bay in 7 over Florida. Florida will try to steal and pound their way to victory. It'll come up just short because Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and company will score the big goals. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tough. Tampa Bay wins in 7 on home ice.
Tampa Bay in 7?
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe I'm respecting Florida a little bit too much, but
yeah.
I just think from a rivalry aspect, I can't see this being a short series. When both teams are they're kind of the same, but also kind of different. And by the way, as of the recording of this show 50 minutes ago, Paul Maurice telling the media today no determination has been made as of yet regarding Matthew Tkachuk and his availability for the game tomorrow, game number 1. So that might be a huge loss. And it's interesting, right? Because they acquired Brad Marchand, and everybody wanted to see Brad Marchand, Matthew Tkachuk, and Sam Bennett on the same line. We have yet to see that since the trade deadline, which is going to be very interesting. I also think Vasilevsky's back in the form of a couple of years ago, too, which is going to be big. And that is why I'm giving the Tampa Bay Lightning the edge in a game 7. There's no better goaltender that I would want in a one-game playoff than Andre Vasilevsky, with all due respect to Connor Hellebuck. Who would you want if If I said, Rich, you could pick any goalie to win you a one-game playoff, who are you taking?
Michael, I live in Winnipeg. Who am I
So
supposed to
you
take?
would take Hellebuck given past playoff performance.
Listen, I would take any of those guys right now. For me, it's Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, and Hellebuck. Hellebuck's going to have a good playoff this year. Whether or not the Jets win or not, I don't know. But I think Hellebuck's going to play well. He's going to be part of any success the Jets have. He's going to be part of it. But to me, those are the top three goalies in the league right now: Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, and Hellebuck. Everybody else, while interesting, is not at that level. And Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky, because they've done it in the playoffs and have literally lugged their team across the finish line. And Hellebuck, because he made the Jets into a playoff team the last few years. I don't think they would have been a playoff team without him. So, I mean, they're a really good team, but they're a really good team also because they have Hellebuck. So, but don't ask me to pick Hellebuck or somebody other than Hellebuck to be, if you had a one game winner takes all. Michael, I live in Winnipeg. What do you think?
I don't know. I like Vasilevsky more in a one game, but
yeah, okay.
That's neither here nor there. All right, so I didn't tell you this part of the exercise, but I want to just see how you would react. What is your conference final prediction and your Stanley Cup prediction? And your champion.
Are we doing this?
Yes, we are. I'm curious who you're going to mention.
Okay. Well, I selected this and then I second guessed. I did like before the playoffs started, and this is my selection for like a few hockey pools that I'm in. So I'm going to go because why would I pick against my own hockey pool picks, right?
Yep.
So in the Eastern Conference, I see Toronto playing Washington.
Okay.
So I see the Leafs getting by, like I said, Ottawa, and then the Leafs getting by Tampa Bay, and Washington getting by Carolina, and then Toronto and Washington, with Washington making it to the Stanley Cup final. It was Toronto, Washington. I'm going with Washington. So sorry. I could probably pick Toronto too. Maybe if I change my mind. If you ask me tomorrow, I might pick Toronto. And then in the Western Conference, I have Winnipeg and Las Vegas.
Interesting.
And Winnipeg winning the conference final against Vegas and avenging their loss from 2018. And Stanley Cup final, Winnipeg and Washington. I picked Winnipeg.
Oh. You are the homer. I thought I was going to be the homer.
No.
Spoiler alert, I did not pick the Jets to win the Cup. I did not pick the Jets to make the Cup final. I did not pick the Jets to win the West. My West final?
Yeah.
Colorado over LA in 7. I think the Kings beat the Oilers and beat the Knights. And will lose to the Avalanche. The Avalanche getting past the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. They'll meet in the Western final with Colorado advancing over LA in 7. My Eastern final has Toronto overcoming Tampa Bay and Ottawa. And I have Carolina overcoming. To be honest, I don't think there's going to be much to overcome in this series. Carolina will have a fairly easy time with New Jersey, and I have them overcoming the Montreal Canadiens, staying true to my bracket.
Okay.
After the Canadiens upset of Washington, my Eastern final has Toronto beating Carolina in 6 games, avenging a playoff series loss from way back when, where the Carolina Hurricanes and Ron Francis didn't upset the Leafs, but beat the Leafs in the playoffs 1 year. My Stanley Cup final, for the first time since 1967, the Leafs win the Stanley Cup, and they'll win Canada's first Stanley Cup since 1993, beating the Colorado Avalanche in a Game 7.
Okay, so this is all interesting, but just for everybody who's listening, we're going to wait. We're going to let the series play out.
Yep.
And all the series in the first round, and then we're gonna re-pick. Like obviously,
Yep.
like we're not picking the whole bracket right now. Like
Nope.
this is
No,
just
we're
sort of
gonna
what we
repick
did.
based on the actual bracket. This is just
Actual results.
projections.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
way the first round is drawn.
Good.
Already
So
a
do the
couple.
Jets win tonight?
Already a couple of picks. Rob's Western final: Jets versus Knights, Canes versus Leafs, Jets versus Leafs. Jets winning 6 games. Tat says, "Oh boy, hard believing in Toronto, eh?" Well, it's got to end at some point. Just look at the Chicago Cubs. Miracles do happen every now and then. But in the heart of hearts, Winnipeg wins the Stanley Cup. In the further heart of hearts, Leafs and Toronto meet in the Stanley Cup final. I have no idea what I would do if that was to be the case, but one can dream, most certainly. Although I think it's more likely that Santa comes down the chimney rather than the Leafs and the Jets meeting in the Stanley Cup final. So, answering your question, do the Jets win tonight? Yes, they do. They go to St. Louis with an overtime victory and a 2-0 series lead. I have them coming back to Winnipeg with a 3-1 lead for Game 5. That's Wednesday night.
Okay. Okay.
How about you?
I think the Jets win tonight. I don't think it's overtime. I think it's maybe a 3-1 empty net goal, 3-2, 4-2 with an empty netter. I think it's low scoring. Each team gets a power play goal. The Jets play much better out of the gate. And I don't think St. Louis runs the Jets every chance they get. I think what St. Louis does is they purposefully go after the small and vulnerable Jets. So
Yep.
Kyle Connor, Cole Perfetti, Vladislav Nemestikov. That's who they try. And then you could say Josh Morrissey and then Neil Pionk too, or DeMello. I think they try to run those guys or hit them. They're not hitting. They're not going to bother trying to throw their weight out of their way to get Niederreiter or Lowry or Stanley or Shen. I mean, if they hit them, they have to hit them to win the puck battle. But to actually intimidate and run guys, I think they're going to run the little guys because they don't want to expend all that energy. So.
Yep, you're not wrong there. I agree with you when it comes to that kind of stuff. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do things. We do not have a show planned for this coming week. Just with everything so laid out. If something major does happen, you could just come back in the middle of the week. Otherwise, we'll be back next Monday night at 5 o'clock. Remember, that is Federal Election Monday. Go place your vote because it is your civic duty and your civic right to go place a vote. Not my place to tell you who to vote for, only to tell you that you should vote because it is your democratic right to do so, and everybody deserves to have their say in a free political world in our country of Canada. So come vote, go vote, and then come watch the Ultimate Hockey Show before the federal election results come in. We're back at our normal time next Monday, 5 to 6 o'clock, unless something absolutely major happens between now and then. We'll see you next Monday. For Red Petty, I'm Michael Dell saying good night from Winnipeg. Go Jets, go. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the hockey. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.